What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Roxora, and today we're doing another Commander deck tech, where I take a look at a deck list submission, analyze the commander, the individual card choices, and the strategy overall. And at the end, I'll give it a rating out of 10. Today, we're going to be looking at a competitive EDH list that a friend of mine has been brewing since the bans. Obviously, having gotten really into cEDH, and then having these bans happen. This is the first time in quite a while that a ban has affected me. So a lot of people having to pivot. So this ban in particular affected one of my friends. I forget their username, old dirty socks or old dirty socks. But yeah, they got pretty hard by the bans. They previously played Niv Mizzet Perun. And with the banning of Dockside and Jewel Lotus, that deck is essentially dead, according to him and many of the other people that used to play that deck. So anyways, we are going to be looking at a different list. But before we do that, if you enjoy the content, remember, like, comment, subscribe. All that stuff really helps me out. And yeah, lets me make more content like this, and lets me know what type of content you guys want to see. All right, without further ado, let's talk about Glarb. All right, so as I said, our commander is Glarb Calamity's Augur, which is black, green, blue for a 2/4 legendary creature, frog, wizard, noble. Don't often see noble on a card, but anyways, it's got Death Touch, and you may look at the top card of the library anytime. And you may also play lands and cast spells with mana value 4 or greater from the top of your library. And then you can also tap it to Surveil 2, which is, if you don't know, look at the top 2 cards and either put them back on top in any order or put any number of them into the graveyard. So immediately looking at this, it's very much just kind of a future sight type of effect, where you get to look at the top card and then you can hopefully play cards off the top. One of the notable things about this is you get to play lands. That's pretty good. You don't get to play additional lands, but you do get to play your land for turn. So just naturally, as the course of the game goes on, this will provide card advantage, and then the surveil ability is also kind of good, and also just getting to look at the top card of your library. So yeah, all these make for just kind of a card that just fuels itself, but the particular deck that we have built around it, it has some notable synergies, as we'll make note of, but yeah, it is just kind of a card that naturally will provide value over the course of the game. So yeah, let's take a look at the deck list here, titled The Prophets of Doom, again by Old Dirty Socks. So again, thanks for making this list. They didn't really submit it, I'll tell you, but I thought it was cool. I wanted to showcase this list, and a lot of people are kind of looking at Glarb as a kind of new mid-range commander, as we'll talk about. Again, with the bannings of Dockside and Jewel Lotus, people having to make other arrangements for these type of their competitive decks. So yeah, what we essentially have here is a Sultai mid-range deck with a couple of the classic combos you would expect to see, with a couple of spicy ones. So just kind of getting rid of the obvious inclusions here. Of course, you have the Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation lines here. So you have Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, as well as Tainted Pact and the mana base to support it. The other notable combos in this list that we'll talk about, the big one being, where is Necropotence. So Necropotence has always been a powerful card. Obviously, paying 1 life to essentially draw a card is quite powerful, but it comes with a risk, right? You have to basically win the game if you're going to pay, a bajillion life, right? So you pay a bunch of life, and then hopefully you draw into or already have a flash effect. That could be anything from Valley of Floodcaller to Born Upon a Wind. I don't believe this deck is playing the Emergent Zone. Yeah, that makes sense. But those 2 pieces, or there is a spicy one here in Teferi, which we'll talk about. Yeah, so you assemble Necropotence plus a flash piece, and you get to pay a bunch of life draw a bunch of cards, and then win all in that turn. Or you can just use Necropotence again as a value engine, playing it early and then just using it to refill your hand as you are playing it out. I believe that is the really the main win condition. Again, a lot of times these types of cEDH decks tend to be light on win conditions, and that's to be expected. Obviously, there's ways of winning without Thassa's Oracle. If it were to get exiled, I believe there is Mnemonic Betrayal, which can do a lot of work. But I believe, yes, for the most part, the win con lines do look to be Thassa's Oracle. What is it? Oh, this is the. So we'll talk about Banishing Knack and Retraction Helix in a moment, because I think. Yeah, no, we're just talk about it now, because that's the other kind of way to win the game. Obviously, the end result is still going to be Thassa's Oracle, but with Valley Flood Color, there is quite a couple of ways to kind of win at instant speed. So with Valley Flood Color, it says when you cast a non-creature spell, you untap a bunch of creature types, and one of those creature types includes frogs. And as we can see, Glarb here is a frog. So with Banishing Knack or Retraction Helix, you can cast it on your Valley Flood Color or on your Glarb, but preferably on your Valley Flood Color. And you can bounce any mana positive rock, so that can be, Mox Opal, Mana Vault, Soul Ring, Grim Monolith. I believe those are the only ones. Springleaf Drum kind of does something here as well, but actually, yeah, that does it, because you untap. Yeah, so if you you cast, any mana, you need 2, but so you basically do the Hullbreaker Horror line with Valley Flood Color. So you cast one, bounce the other. You cast you only need one, because you bounce itself. Sorry, you cast the Mana Rock. Sorry, I messed up the explanation. Right, you cast one Mana Rock, you tap it for mana, you bounce Valley Flood Collar, and then you bounce the artifact with Valley Flood Collar by using the Retraction Helix ability, and then you repeat that process. You cast it, untap Valley Flood Collar, bounce the rock, recast the rock, untap Flood Collar, and you just kind of repeat that process. So that process nets infinite mana. The question is, how do you win the game? Well, Glarb, as it's untapping, can also surveil. So you tap it to surveil, you put cards into your graveyard, or you find a way to win the game. And that can be anything from Beseech the Mirror, Loin Revealed, to Fairy, Phyrexian Metamorph, just letting you kind of surveil all the way through your deck until you find your win con, which is, again, probably going to be Thassa's Oracle again. Yeah, so obviously just a really, really strong win line there. And again, you're already playing Valley Flood Collar. Really, the only bad cards that you're playing are Banishing Knack and Retraction Helix. But again, as you can see with Glarb and Flood Collar, there's a lot of cool things that you can do with these cards. So at worst case scenario, they are bounce spells, right? They bounce any, I believe this is, no, they're both any permanent. So it's kind of like a Chain of Vapor. You obviously have to have a creature without Summoning Sickness. And again, there's some removal interaction that can happen there. But again, those cards really do not perform terribly. And again, the potential with Valley Flood Collar is really huge there. So those are the win lines. Let's talk about, just kind of other cards in the deck that are just here. Again, you have a lot of the mana rocks that you would expect to see. Wishclaw Talisman is a tutor. The enchantments here are all pretty self-explanatory, I think. Carpet, Exploration, Necropotence, Rhystic, obviously, and Mystic. Walk-in Closet here, is an interesting one, but it's actually more played for the other half, the Forgotten Cellar, which kind of acts as a Yawgmoth's Will type effect. But the interesting thing is that, again, you can play the first side with value, right? Which which comes down and you get to play lands from your graveyard. So as you're surveilling cards with Glarb or with your fetch lands, you just get a little bit of extra value. But the interesting thing about rooms is that rooms unlock without using the stack. So when their ability goes on the stack, but they actually don't get cast, I should say. So you cast Walk-in Closet, and they either counter that or it resolves, and then once it's on the battlefield, you pay the 5 mana for Forgotten Cellar, and there's not really an easy way to interact with that. So really, really interesting, kind of sneaky way to kind of get this onto the battlefield and then potentially do some really powerful recursion effects with it. May cast spells for yeah, so it's only for that turn, which is really unfortunate. And it also, again, is just like the Yawgmoth effect. It's not like Breach where it goes back into the yard. But again, if you play this and then you try to do your Thoracle combo and it doesn't work, you have this to kind of rebuy it. And it's just spells. It's not permanents, which is really nice. You know, there's some recursion in green that only is for permanents. This is any spell. So, yeah, so really interesting kind of sneaky way. Speaking of, we'll also talk about Shifting Woodlands, which is becoming a really powerful card for green decks. This can copy Underworld Breach in some decks, but it's not doing that here. Here it can copy a Necropotence. It can copy a whole bunch of things. It's a permanent you control, right? You can't just steal somebody else's. Oh, it's a permanent in your graveyard, excuse me. Right, so it can do a couple of things, right? It can just be a new, Ledger Shredder, Bowmaster, or Polywog Prodigy. It's not until end of turn. I think it's just permanently, right? Hold up. No, until end of turn. I have not played with Shifting Woodlands at all. It's barely been activated against me, but also just getting your Necropotence, could just be good enough. I will note it says until end of turn, so I believe it does work well with Necropotence in that by the time that you would go to discard, it is no longer Necropotence. Someone can fact check me on that, but that is an interesting interaction there. But yeah, let's just talk about some of the creatures here. So again, you have your classic birds and Delighted Halfling. Those kind of see play in pretty much every single green deck. Mockingbird's a really good one here, as it can copy any creature as long as you have the requisite mana for it, but it also turns it into a bird, which, as we talked about with Valley Floodcaller, is super interesting. So if there's any mana dorks or anything with an activated ability, that can kind of be interesting. Does that do the thing with Devoted Druid? I guess it kind of does, but not really. Like it actually, no, it doesn't. It doesn't do the thing. It gives a +1/+1/+1, but that doesn't really do anything. Kitsa here is another outlet if you are doing the Valley Floodcaller thing. So if you have Kitsa and Valley Floodcaller and you have Retraction Helix, that's another combo that you don't need Glarb for, which is kind of interesting. So again, you just get to loot through your deck, which is kind of nice. Obviously, Orcus Bowmaster's here. Polywog Prodigy has, kind of some decks have been okay with it, but really you do need to make sure that you put this in a deck that can at least get it to 1, preferably 2 counters. So Glarb here gets it to 1 at the very least, and then there's a couple of other creatures here that can pump it up a little bit, but mostly just here because it's a frog. It's a good frog, I guess. But similarly here with Psychic Frog. So again, both of these cards may not be super exciting, but again, with the Valley Floodcaller stuff, sometimes just this curiosity type of effect can be good enough. I'll also note that discarding a card can sometimes be good, and also just like having ways of blocking Tymna creatures. So Psychic Frog is nice there. Spellseeker, that one should be pretty self-explanatory. Phyrexian Manamorph has seen pretty much an uptick over cards like Phantasmal Image, as since even though we don't have cards like Dockside to copy, we do have cards like the One Ring to copy, and Metamorph copying the One Ring is definitely something you should be thinking about. Subtlety might look like an odd card, but is super nice as there's a lot of creatures in the format that you definitely want to be able to answer, especially out of nowhere. So cards like Grand Abolisher, that can be a huge problem. And I know absolutely Old Dirty Socks here does not want to be caught off guard when a Grand Abolisher is on the stack. So having a card like this that can interact with it is really, really good. Yeah, another card that can work well with Polywog Prodigy. And then a couple of big boys here in Talion and Teferi. Talion, a commander a deck in and of itself, just a good value piece. And then Teferi here, as I mentioned, silence effects are really powerful. And this one has flash, prevents your opponent from casting stuff, gives you flash, and can even be cast with Glarb. So even though, again, it looks kind of expensive, it's pretty powerful that you can just have this on top of your deck and just bam, flash it out, and boom. You can also get it off of Eldritch Evolution, which is kind of cool. You just like sack your Spellseeker or something. A bunch of tutors here. Culling Ritual is a good value piece. A bunch of the best black, just all the good Sultai cards here. There's also Dramatic Reversal, so Dramatic Reversal can be a combo with Kitza. It's not the best, but Dramatic Reversal does also just help when you are digging. So if again Glarb and things like that. Also just can be a ritual effect, works with the One Ring. So again, kind of like Retraction Helix and Banishing Knack, Dramatic Reversal does enough outside of the combo stuff that it's worth including here. Veil of Summer for protection. Lindul's Vault is essentially just another tutor. And then we have some cool cards here like Deadly Rollick, Force of Vigor, Mindbreak Trap, Misdirection, and Submerge. Obviously, Force of Will goes without saying. Deadly Rollick and Force of Vigor are obviously pretty good, but they're even better when you can cast them off the top of your deck. Just having a removal spell that you just essentially also drew a card is super nice. Oh my mouse is running out of battery, but don't worry about it. Yeah, so just having both Deadly Relic and Submerge be interaction pieces off the top of your deck is super good. Yeah, and then Mindbreak Trap, Force of Will, Misdirection as interaction pieces are super nice. So these ones are also, Force of Will and Misdirection are also super interesting because they often will cost you a card from your hand, so they're kind of card disadvantage, but when you cast them off the top of your deck, you pay the alternative cost. It's essentially like you got a card back, so you essentially really didn't go down a card. You just used your Force of Will as if it were one card. And that's also really nice when you can just put it on top of your deck with something like a Vampiric Tutor. I believe we also have, we have Mystical Tutor as well. So both these, being able to just tutor up one of these interaction pieces and just get access to it immediately is super powerful. Speaking of super powerful, I was going to mention Legolas's Quick Reflexes. So this is an odd one in green. It's it performs a lot of functions. It's like not explicitly powerful by like in and of itself, but when you combine all these elements together, it's really powerful. So first of all, it's got split second, so it's not counterable. It's not interactable in any way. It comes in and it just does the thing. So first it says untap target creature until end of turn negates hexproof. So boom, right there you see it can just protect a creature in and of itself. If someone has, a removal spell for Glarb or Valley Floodcaller or something, you just say no. And then it also has an interesting ability of whenever this creature becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to its power up to one target creature. So this can be used in really good combination with Glarb, as you can just right away just cast Legolas's Quick Reflexes and then tap it to Surveil, and you immediately get a little bit of damage. Obviously, that's only 2 damage, but again, it could be more with something like Valley Bloodcaller, or if you have a larger creature, you can also just cast Legolas's Quick Reflexes and then attack. Again, there's a little bit of interaction there, but I guess not because it has hexproof. Forget what I said. But yeah, so that card in and of itself is just like such a powerful card. Can often come up as a really flexible card in your games. It's not just a protection piece. It also doesn't say your own creature, so it can be very political, where I've seen it in games where someone says, hey, there's a creature over there on, it's player two's turn, and player three is about to take their turn, and player one says, hey, I got a quick reflexes. Do you want to like team up, and we can remove whatever problem piece is on that board. So that's super nice. Oh, I forgot to mention, sorry, I should say this. So sorry. I missed something. I always forget this with Finale of Devastation. I mentioned that only Thassa's Oracle seems to be the only way to win the game. That's incorrect. Finale of Devastation, you just cast it for 1,000,000 mana when you're doing the Valley Flood Caller thing. So if someone's in the comments and is like nagging me about Finale of Devastation as another win con, I gotcha. Well, let me also grab. Got my charger here. All right, I'm glad I caught that. Otherwise it would look really silly. More silly than I probably already look right now. But yeah, I think that is most of the cards. All right, because we talked about most of these cards. Again, other cards here are self-explanatory, like Ledger Shredder, Elvish Spirit Guide. Obviously talked about cards like Pact Negation, Noxious Revival. Yeah, looking pretty good. Nothing too crazy in the lands here, but I do just want to point out the surveillance here. So Undercity Sewers, and Hedge Maze, I believe, are the ones in here. Yep. Oh, sorry, and Underground Mortuary. So 3 of the surveillance, and that might seem kind of crazy, but again, with Glarb, looking at the top of your deck, if you find a bad card off the top of your deck, just go ahead and get it off there. Just any extra way of digging. I know also that Old Dirty Socks is the one who convinced me to try out the Surveillance, so I know they're a big fan of them. They just are mostly free, not literally free. There are a couple of times when they'll be an awkward starting hand, but for the most part, anytime you have an extra fetch land that you don't have to crack on your turn, it's just a free card. It's a free look, and so again, Old Dirty Socks seems to be a big fan of them, and you can definitely see that in their deck building. There's also Gaia's Cradle and some other stuff, Cavern of Souls to kind of make your Glarb or something uncounterable. You can name Wizard. And both Glarb, Valley Flood Caller, there's a strange amount of wizards in here. So there's Glarb, I believe none of these guys, but Flood Caller, Spellseeker, Thassa's Oracle, and Teferi are all wizards. So that's super. Oh, and Polywog Prodigy. There you go. So super cool. That Cavern of Souls just does something really, really relevant. Not only making your commander uncounterable, but also your win cons. So that's really smart deck building there. So props to that. Yeah, and I think that is most of the deck list. I don't think there's any. I'm trying to make sure there's nothing I missed. Usually these things are pretty self-explanatory. Like, obviously, I don't think at this point I need to explain what Demonic Tutor does. I would hope not. Yeah, looks pretty good. Awesome. So yeah, those are all the cards. In terms of the power level or the kind of strategy as a whole, again, I used to think of this deck as a turbo deck when I was started playing against it, because obviously Dark Ritual into Necropotence can feel really scary, and while this deck can definitely have that type of start, it definitely is more of a mid-range deck. Just kind of wants to play Glarb early, and then just use it to generate value, play those extra cards off the top, and then when kind of people are low on resources and it's up on resources, you can just kind of naturally win the game. Because the big thing about this deck, as you can see, is that it doesn't have a lot of easy ways to win. It has to resolve a couple of multi-card combos, and so doing that can be quite a big risk. And since you're not in white, you don't have the backup of things like Silence or Grand Abolisher. As you can see, the really only way to protect your win is with Teferi. I believe, and you know, kind of like like Veil of Summer. Veil of Summer can kind of do the thing, but not always. So yeah, Teferi is the only kind of silence effect in this deck, and again, that's why they're choosing to run it, because they value, obviously that type of effect is really powerful, no matter how expensive it is. So yeah, so definitely needing to play the long game with this deck, grind people out, stop wins when you can, and then when the time is right, when the iron is hot, so to speak, go for your win. That being said, I love just how the deck naturally includes good cards. Like there's again all the staples that you would expect to see in the mix here and everywhere, but also love the inclusions, that the spicy includes the cards that really only work with Glarb. Obviously, Valley Flood Color is becoming more of a common card, but just love how this is such a powerful Flood Color deck. This is one of, probably, I would argue, one of the most relevant cards in the deck. And then Psychic Frog, Kitsa, like these are kind of interesting cards that you get to run, again, because Glarb and Valley Flood Color have this interesting interaction. And then, again, most of these cards look like just normal Magic cards, but again, Misdirection and Submerge and these types of effects just become that much more powerful when you have a card like Glarb in your deck. So I like that it's good cards. They're not playing these funky cards that I tend to play, but it definitely feels like a unique deck. It feels like a Glarb deck and not just a random Sultai mid-range deck that just happens to run Glarb as the commander. And that should definitely be known, because a lot of people are looking at Glarb as a powerful commander. It's not just Dirty Socks here that is looking at Glarb. A lot of people are kind of brewing it, taking it to tournaments, fiddling with the lists, and yeah, so definitely could be a new powerhouse in the cEDH metagame. So that being said, what is the rating out of 10? This is a hard one, just because, again, it is a cEDH deck. As you can see the price down there. And again, a lot of the cards tend to be similar, as cEDH decks tend to be. But again, as I said, I like that it is still competitive while feeling like a unique deck. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Again, not 10 out of 10. But definitely one of the better lists I've seen, both for, again, uniqueness, competitiveness, and synergy as well. I really like all of these subtle inclusions that make things really good, and also making me look at rooms in a new way. Because again, Walk-in Closet Forgotten Solar is not something that I really would have expected in a deck like this. All right. I think that's going to do for me, guys. Again, this is a pretty standard list, so I just wanted to give a quick rundown about kind of the combos that this deck is running, and kind of give you a little sense into how the cEDH metagame and deck lists are evolving. And if you're interested in that, I'm happy to explore that in like another video. But for now, yeah, that's going to do it for me. Again, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed, remember, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.